Good morning, guys. Welcome to another garden tour. It is early June right now, and the entire garden doesn't look like this, but I wanted to start us off with the best part. So we have a lot of stuff going on right now. We have a bunch of stuff blooming. Things are starting to get really big. They're filling out the beds. And we also are starting to harvest little bits of summertime things, which has been really exciting. Basically, it feels like summer is here and the garden is starting to come together. Now, if you're new here, my name is Kiera. Feel free to call me Q. And I'm gardening in California in Zone 9. And so if you are also in Zone 9, this might be helpful for you. But I always just love doing these tours just to get to share what the garden looks like, the good, the bad, the ugly. And I do share the ugly, but I love doing these tours with you guys just so that we get to garden together. So let's start in our usual spot. The first thing we have here on our patio is this green stalk, which we call our strawberry green stalk because we have a bunch of strawberries growing in it pretty happily, I would say. And then we filled the rest in with petunias that are also doing really, really well. Now, we have been fertilizing this pretty regularly, about every 2 weeks. We've done it with fish emulsion, and then we also started making worm casting tea, which we've been using to fertilize our entire garden. And so far, we're really liking the results of that. We also had some friends come over about a week ago, and we were able to give them the very first strawberry that was ripe off of this green stalk, and that was really exciting. Now with this, the fruit's pretty small, but it's okay. It's more of an experiment. And we have unfortunately had some fruit that still had bug holes in it. So there are slugs that are still climbing up onto this green stalk. But the more the fruit hangs down, like this one, if it's not touching anything, we found that it has a better chance of surviving the slugs. So this is new from the previous garden tour. We have our blackberry hedge here that is doing really well and producing a lot of fruit. And then we also have since harvested garlic. And so we have all of this garlic. It equals to about 136-ish medium-sized heads. So you can see some of them are pretty good size here. We have some little ones too. Like here's some pretty little ones. And then some of them, I mean, they're pretty decent here. So Andrew's also out here on the patio right now. He's working on another project, which we are filming. We're making a video about, and I'll show you guys that too, that whole process and what we're doing there. But you will hear him in the background shoveling and stuff like that. There's a lot going on. Around here, we kind of just got to do projects when we can. So with this garlic, what we did is we made this like makeshift rack here. It's a ladder. I think it's a 12-foot ladder, and it was essentially not long enough to put all of the garlic on. And so what we did in this corner here is that is actually our compost sifter. And so that got the rest of the garlic off of the ground. So the reason we did this is with garlic and things like that, you have to let them completely dry out before you store them, or they're just going to develop mold and stuff from the moisture that's still in the plants. So we put them out here in just kind of like one layer so that they can really dry out. This part of our patio, it does get a little bit of sun more than we wanted. So these are right now getting about an hour or so of morning sun on them, which is not great. Ideally, you would want it to be in a place that has really good airflow and is actually also completely out of the sun. But this is the space we have for right now. Until they dry a little bit more, then we can transfer them into our garage where we can put them closer together. We're not worried about them having so much moisture in them. And so what we did here, we lined them up on this so that all of the bulbs and the roots and stuff got really good airflow so that they could dry out. And then also so that all of the leaves could dry out. Now these are pretty good now. You can see there's still some green here, but whoop, they fall off of this very easily. There's still some green here, but for the most part, these are dried out. And so I probably could go ahead and move these inside. And then I might wait another couple weeks before I braid them up for our long storage in the house. So if you've never grown garlic before, I actually highly recommend it. It's super easy. I have a video on how to plant it, and I also have the video where we harvested all of this, and I will link them down below. You also don't have to plant this many. You can do it even in like a small shallow container if you have something like that. I think if you had like a kiddie pool, you could actually grow a lot of garlic, because you can see here, this is as deep as the roots go, so it really doesn't need a lot of soil. It's basically that much soil. And so a kiddie pool, something like any kind of shallow container would be really great. If you want a fun gardening project that honestly a lot of people are impressed by, then this is a good one. Here's a look at our blackberries. So they're all still green, but pretty soon here, all of these are going to be super tasty. Here's a new addition to our garden. This is supposed to be a multicolored hydrangea. We saw a sign for a plant sale at one of our neighbors' houses, so we decided to stop by and we picked up this little guy. And I'm very excited for this. I've always wanted to have hydrangeas, and so this is the first experiment for me to figure out how to grow them and grow them well. And here we have our herb bed. It is always just kind of a work in progress. It's had drip irrigation in it for the past, I want to say, bless you, I want to say the past like week or so. And it's been great not having to water this by hand anymore. The irrigation is up a little bit because I've also been pulling other plants out of here. And we're just slowly cleaning this up. But we have in here, we have some really healthy sage. We have thyme over here. There's green onion. And there's rosemary here in the back. Now here we are at our fruit trees. I'll do them in the opposite order this time. This is a peach tree that we have been nursing back to health. And so far, right now, it's looking pretty good. We've harvested all of the peaches off of here. You can see I left a couple over here. I just couldn't reach those. And then I left a couple that a squirrel had been helping himself to, so I figured he could finish those off. We got about 30 pounds of peaches off this tree this year, so it was really good. And then this is our apricot tree, and the apricots are just starting to blush a little bit. So these were green on the last tour still, and they're starting to turn really pale yellow now. Andrew and I aren't actually huge fans of apricots, but what I want to do with this is try to make some apricot jam or jelly. I've never made that before, so I am excited for that. And I am slowly working on making different kinds of jams throughout the year to give as Christmas gifts during the holidays. Now, I've had this plan for many, many years, and it's never worked out, but I think this is the year that I'm going to make it happen because I already have a few under my belt and I'm feeling really good about it. Here is our grape arch. This thing is just rocking and rolling. I've been trying to get these tendrils to kind of stick up here so that you can keep walking through here. But sometimes this guy just does what he wants. Let's see if I can get him to make some friends up here. There we go. But yeah, this has been really fantastic. It's completely filled in at this point. And I love this part where it gets a little wild and crazy. I think it's just really beautiful. And if you join me in here, you can see that we officially have grapes that are growing into grapes. So I'm so excited for this. I'm determined this year to actually harvest the grapes and make grape jelly from them. This is another kind of part of the holiday gifts idea that I have, but also just for us. Like, I've never made grape jelly before, and so I'm excited to try it. So all of these are going to get bigger and turn into red seedless grapes. Next up, we have our Meyer lemon tree, and it's really happy in this spot. It looks like maybe we might get lemons this year. I mean, it's okay if we don't. I'm just glad that this tree is doing really well. Here we have what is probably a Valencia orange. We know it's an orange tree, so this will be really nice. It'll technically be next year when we harvest it. For us, it tends to be ready around January or February, but it's doing really well so far. And then next to that, we have our cutie tree, our little clementine tree. And the fruit on this, you can see how itty bitty it is still, but that's actually pretty common. These will grow a lot more and they'll get to about that size. And it's really good. It's delicious fruit. Now this is a part of the garden that admittedly is pretty ugly, but it is very productive. And so that's what I'm just focused on this year. So in here we put some tomatillo plants. There's 3 tomatillo plants that we got from a nursery, 2, and then the third one is over there. And then we filled it in with some indeterminate tomatoes, all different varieties. I don't actually remember what these were, but we also got these from the nursery. What I've been doing with this area is just trying to keep it just a little bit tame and contained. And so we have the black plastic here to keep the insane Bermuda grass down. This weekend, I put some pieces of cardboard in between the plants to also help with the grass a little bit more. But this is an area that is in the back of our garden. We really just wanted it to be productive. We wanted to have more space for those larger plants that we didn't have in the garden beds. So yeah, this definitely isn't winning any like beauty awards back here, but these plants are doing really well in this spot, which is great because otherwise it would just be an empty spot in our garden that we wouldn't be using at all. So I'm happy that we were able to make good use of it. And as these plants grow, it'll be a lot prettier, but it still just looks a little rough around the edges back here, and that's okay. Speaking of rough around the edges, these are our raspberries. They're not doing super hot back here. I think I definitely need to fertilize these again. We weren't sure if this spot would be too much sun for them, and so it looks like they're still adjusting. But we did eat 2 raspberries off of this yesterday, and they were really good. Here in the back of our garden, in the middle of this weedy mess, we do have some watermelons growing, which are doing pretty well. I did plant some pumpkins also, but they haven't come up, and I think something has been eating a lot of my seedlings before they came up. Here are potatoes, and you can see a lot of these are like discolored, and when potatoes start to look bad like this, that's how you know they're ready. And so we have a couple more here that could use a little bit more time, but we could probably start harvesting these and more than likely get some potatoes. See, this one is like completely done. There's definitely potatoes in there. We probably want to get these since there's no more leaves. Now we probably want to get these before they rot. I'm in the mood to switch things up a little bit today, so we're going all out of order. These are blueberry plants. We have 5 of them that are uncovered, and then we have 2 that are covered in weeds right now that we need to uncover. But we've gotten blueberries off of these, and they're pretty good. I think they could be a little bit more sweet, but that's probably because the plants could use a little bit more nutrients, but they've been looking pretty good. And this is the first year we've actually gotten blueberries off of these that we kept. So last year, we pulled all the fruit off so that the plants could establish, and so we're very excited to get even just a handful of blueberries this year. In the main part of our garden, we have 3 4x16 foot beds. There's 3 4x8s in the middle there, and then on the far side there's 3 more 4x16s. So in this bed here, this is different from the last tour. These tomatoes have gotten a lot bigger. Let's see, this one was actually one that was growing in a different spot in the garden, and I transplanted it here, I want to say 2 days ago, and it looks like it's gonna make it, so that's really nice. There's a whole bunch of just bush beans that I put in here. The idea was for them to be kind of like an under canopy for these tomatoes because these are all indeterminate cherries. Well, actually, I don't know what this one is, but the rest are Super Sweet 100 indeterminate tomatoes, which means they're gonna get really tall. And so I wanted to have something growing kind of underneath them. Oh, they're dragon tongue bush beans. That's what they are. And these look a little rough because these were starts that I had in the start containers too long, but they're in the ground now. And so may the odds be ever in their favor. And you can see there's other little tomatoes over there. That's another Super Sweet 100. And there's another guy right there. And those will get a lot bigger here pretty soon. And then here I have, I think this is our biggest basil. So I'm gonna come out here and pinch this off probably right before lunch so that we can use this part and also encourage this to bush out a lot more. It makes for sturdier basil plants, but and then we're not wasting in the meantime. We have these random brassicas that are doing really well, but they are starting to get aphids. And then I found this the other day. Actually, I planted this here and I didn't know it came up. It was hidden underneath another brassica that had a ton of aphids on it. So I took it out so that it wouldn't compete with this guy. This is a zucchini. And so we'll be drowning in zucchini pretty soon here. We have more brassicas. I'm not sure what kind this is. It might be broccoli, cauliflower, or collard. I think it's either broccoli or cauliflower. And then we have some chard here, some Swiss chard. And then these are the guys that really have a bunch of bugs on them. You can see it's pretty gross. So we normally don't spray anything in our garden as far as pesticides. We have all the stuff. We have the organic stuff like BT and diatomaceous earth and all of that. But since I bought it, I kind of just don't spray it. We do have it. If there's something that, you know, is covered in bugs and I want to save it, we have all that stuff to use it. We have neem oil, all of that. But I tend to kind of just let things do what they're going to do. And for things like this, when the aphids come out, what I've done in the last couple years too is if it's something like this where we're not going to get any food off of this anyway, one, I'll leave it here because I don't need the space right now. Now, if I needed the space, I would take them out, like the example with that zucchini where it was competing with it, so I took it out. But there's nothing that it's competing with right here, so they get to stay for a little bit. And I feel like that is a good way to have trap plants. So, you know, the bugs clearly like this one, so I'm going to leave it here so that they still have a food source and they're not eating the summer stuff that I actually do want to get something from. The other reason why I will leave stuff like this for a little bit is because since these are aphids, I want the ladybugs to find it. I want to encourage our ladybug population in our garden. So I'm always looking for reasons for them to show up and stay. But for me, I find that it's worth it to just ignore it for as long as I can because it is helping the population of a beneficial insect that I do want in my garden that's ultimately going to help with the garden health overall. And here's more of those brassicas. I mean, they look great. They haven't bolted or anything yet. They're probably about to because we're going to get pretty hot here pretty soon. But most of them do have aphids in them now. We still have kale, which is pretty crazy. We have kale in June. And it looks like this one is pretty bug-free. We have some more Swiss chard here. This is what I'm used to Swiss chard looking like. Last year was the weirdest thing. Steph started eating our Swiss chard. I guess because it didn't have many better options, but I'm used to it being like this, where everything gets annihilated and then the Swiss chard for the most part is left alone. You can see there's a couple holes on here, but it looks pretty good. And here's another kale. Yeah, it looks like they found this one. Over here, we have this cute little domed nasturtium. I think this is darling. I love that it's growing like this. This is actually the only one that hasn't flowered yet, but it's really cute. And this is a Armenian cucumber that is really struggling because I transplanted it here and it didn't like that. So we might not ever get anything off of this, but I mean, it's trying, so I'm gonna let it try. And we have Kentucky Wonder pole beans. This is the first time I've grown these, but I've seen other people grow them, so I am really excited for it. It has dainty little white flowers. They kind of remind me of popcorn. Here we have a Jacoby little pumpkin that came up, I want to say about 2 days ago. So that guy's there now. And then over here, there was a baby boo that started to come up and then something ate it. Oh, here you go. You can see. There it is right there. So something came and ate the leaves off of the top. You can see the husk of the seed right there. And I'm pretty sure it is roly-poly's eating everything. And then this is a tomato. I'm not sure why I put this here. Let's see what this is. Oh, it's a San Marzano. I guess I put it here so it could grow on the edge of this trellis and I could still have like pumpkins and stuff here. That sounds right. That sounds like me. So this is an indeterminate variety too. And it's a paste tomato. Over here, we have some eggplants that are actually starting to look really good. These, you can see the lower leaves were starting to get eaten up pretty good. but it's filling out and it's looking really healthy. We have some peppers here. This one is a pepperoncini. It's super happy. And then another eggplant, same deal here. The lower leaves were getting really eaten, but now that it's established a lot, I mean, it's beautiful. Look at that. Over here we have another Jackby little pumpkin on that same pumpkin trellis. This is the other side. And then I planted some more baby boos on this side a couple days ago, so I'm waiting for those to come up. There was one here that came up, and then I think when we harvested the garlic, it got too disturbed, and so it actually didn't make it, which was pretty sad. I moved a little tomatillo over here. This was a volunteer that I found in another bed, and there was a ton of them growing way too close together, so I put one right here. And then we have some volunteer leeks right here from a leek that we grew here last year that went to seed. On this trellis we have some more of those watermelons. I think it's is it a sugar? That says ground cherry. That's not the right side. I like to use my tags twice. Yeah, sugar baby watermelon. And it's doing, I mean, they're both doing really well. And then because I grew noodle beans on this trellis here last year, there's some noodle beans here. And I think I might try and dig one of those up and see if it makes it. Or I might honestly just let them do their thing and just, when they get big enough, attach them. Maybe I'll do that. I'll just let them stay and then attach them over there when they get big enough. Here is my one dahlia that I got from seed this year. It's still making it. This is something that we had in our compost last year. It's a really small variety. It's like a pea eggplant. And we ended up taking all these out last year because we didn't really want them and we weren't like sure we had them. But I have noticed that I got 2 this year. I'm still deciding if I want to give this a try or not, especially since it's growing so close to plants that I do want. It might have to go. And then this is a Cosmo that's doing really well. And you can see the flower on this one was done. I got to pull that off. Got some more healthy basil down here next to this pepper. It's crazy to me that we have peppers already. I guess because I got these from the nursery. They're just, you know, older and doing a little better than like other peppers. This one's a start too, actually, from the nursery. But yeah, it's crazy to me that they're already producing. Is this one that I started? Oh no, this is a YOLO Wonder. This is also from the nursery. So yeah, all the ones I bought are doing pretty well compared to what I had. On this trellis, we have some tomatoes. So this one is a Champion. It's just a standard red tomato. I think this is the same one as those other ones on the tomatillo trellis. So I put 2 here just to fill out this trellis. And then this is a dahlia that I grew from seed last year and it came back. They are perennial in our zone since it doesn't get so cold in the wintertime, which is really cool. So now I have a bunch of dahlias that I didn't have to plant again. This is a pepper I got from the farmer's market. It's called a diamond pepper and it's yellow now, but on the tag that she had, it was like this really like milky silver color. So we just thought it was really fascinating. So we bought one of those. And then this is one I got from that same vendor. This is an Ajvarski. We grew these last year from Baker Creek and we really liked them. There was actually a bigger pepper on here and it started to get eaten by bugs since it was close to the trellis. We took that one off so that we could save what we could out of it. And then on this trellis, behind this thing, which I'm probably going to move this. It's some sort of green onion or something that I put here at some point. These are more Super Sweet 100 cherry tomatoes, and I wanted to create a couple tomato arches. So that's why those are there. And I have 2 more on this side. So there's a little guy, and there's a much bigger one. These are both super sweets. And then there's a wee basil in the middle. Over here, here's another eggplant. This one's not quite as happy as those other 2, but that's okay. It's still doing really well. And this is a marigold that I started from seed. I got a couple peppers here. Let's see, were these all transplants from the... Oh yeah, these are all from the nursery too. And this one here, also from the nursery. And then another thing I did is I put more dragon tongue bush beans in this empty spot up here. This was something I was so excited to show you, and I waited too long. This is our dahlia from last year. Look how pretty she is. So you can see there's a couple here. I think this one was the first one that bloomed, and it was so pretty. So I have to come and deadhead this to encourage it to grow more flowers. This plant definitely struggled last year, so to have something that came back is just amazing. And then underneath here, I have a couple watermelons. I think this one's a watermelon. And then this one, I think, is a pumpkin. Yeah, that's a sugar pie pumpkin. Here's our other tomato trellis. These are mostly Romas. There's a few volunteers in here too. But these guys have been very happy with the worm tea that we made as well. Now in these 8-foot beds in the middle here, this is kind of our cut flower garden, but honestly, it became a little bit of a hodgepodge just because a lot of the flowers didn't make it. And so what I did is I came in here with different kinds of tomatoes, and a lot of these tomatoes are Romas so that we could just get higher production of that. I mean, I think most of the tomatoes, these ones we got from a nursery, and they're doing really well. And then the cosmos started blooming this week. So I'm gonna deadhead the ones that are already gone. And then I'm going to make a bouquet with the rest of these guys. Let's see, there's another one right there. So with a lot of cut flower varieties, what I've learned is I really should be doing with shears. I'm going to do this with shears. What I've learned is that when these plants are small, it's good to kind of snip the top off of them because it encourages the plant to grow bigger and bushier, and then you also get more flowers out of it. What I found is I like to wait because once they start budding, I have a really hard time cutting that bud off. Like, I just can't do it. And so I decided, you know what, I'm just going to let it be what it is, and I'm going to enjoy those first couple flowers. And then what I like to do now is I will actually take the first couple flowers, wait for them to bloom or to start to open, and then I will make like a small, like, beginning of the season flower bouquet out of those. And I find that that's just a much more enjoyable experience for me, where I'm not cutting off the buds too early. And then I get to enjoy them inside my house. And then I'm still getting all the benefits of trimming the flowers because I'm still encouraging it to grow more flowers and bush out more. And so for me, that's just like the best of all of the worlds that has been working really well for me so far. This is the flower bed that's probably doing the best. There's a little nasturtium in the corner here. I have some trays of plants that I'm hardening off right now that I've been doing seed starting experiments with. The seed starts that I did at the beginning of the year, they all failed. I have a whole video on the lessons I learned from that, but I'm trying again. And there's like a little tomato that I moved from another place. I moved this one, I think, yesterday. So this is what I was talking about. Like, if you have a flower here, this is, you can see this is about to bud, but it's a single stem still. So what I'll do is I'll just wait for it to flower and then trim it, and it's just the same. This is one that I did get early. You can see right there where I trimmed it. And now it is bushing out and it has a lot more stems on it. So that is the benefit. And then here we have some tomatoes that are doing really, really well. Oh, we have tomatoes. Very cool. So these are what I believe are gold nugget tomatoes. Let's see if any of these have a tag. I'm pretty sure I put gold nugget tomatoes on this side. And I love this variety too because it's supposed to be kind of like, with a lot of determinants, it's kind of one and done. But these actually, once they start fruiting, they fruit for me for months. And we get them like well into the fall. So it's pretty fantastic. You can see more cosmos here that are budding out. So I'm going to grab some of those for my bouquet. Over here, I have some Mexican sunflowers that are getting pretty tall. I'm actually not sure if you're supposed to cut these and make them bushier also, so I have to look that up. I do really like the feel of these leaves though. They're really soft. And we have some onions that I planted, I want to say in January or February. I planted them all around this bed, and these are the only ones that made it. And I have seen with onions that people kind of move the soil around the top so that they bulb up. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But this is the first time I've grown onion. Here in this bed we have a lot more pepper starts that we bought, and we have some tomatoes. There's some that we bought in here, and then there's like this guy. This is one that I started, so it's starting to catch up a little bit. And then here we have 2 dahlias from last year and a Mexican sunflower. I planted this Mexican sunflower here before these dahlias came up, and I didn't know they were here. So they're all kind of living probably too close together, but I'm gonna see what happens and just leave them all be. This is a dwarf variety of Cosmo. It's a dazzling dwarf, I think is what it's called. If that's wrong, I'll put it on the screen. But the cool thing about this is like the blooms are still full size, which is really great. So I'm curious to see how big these plants will actually get. And then this is a Love Lies Bleeding Amaranth. This is the first time I've grown these, but I thought they were really pretty, so I went and grabbed some of those. Over here, this is a Pink Surprise calendula. As you can see, that is not pink. So we'll see what happens here. These plants look a little rough. I have 2 of them. They both look like this because I was pretty sure this was the wrong season for them, and I just wanted to try them anyway. So we'll see what happens there. And then right next to it, I have my first zinnia of the year. This is a Moulin Rouge zinnia. I've grown these in my garden for the past like 3 years, and I really love them. So this is another one that's going to go in my bouquet. Right now, on to the last 16-foot beds. So this has been one of my struggle beds. There's just a ton of grass in here. I actually weeded this completely about a week ago, and the grass is back. So it's time to weed again. I've planted a lot of stuff in here, and it's all really struggled and I think competed with the weeds. And so what I did after the last garden tour is I had some extra volunteer tomatillos, and since they require a lot of space, I decided I was just going to put them back here, so because there was nothing else really growing back here. So I put, I think, 4 of them back here, and they're all doing really well. They looked rough at first, but they have all since survived. They shouldn't mind the amount of sun that they get back here, and yeah, hopefully it'll fill in the space. Now, last but definitely not least, the 2 awesome beds. So the thing about these 2 beds is these are the only 2 that actually got fresh compost this year, like a top dressing. It was compost that we made, and we only had enough to fill 2 beds, so we put about 1.5 inches in each one of these, and it was going to be an experiment to see how well they did. We're also working on making more compost for the other beds, but the difference is very striking with the health of these 2 beds compared to everything else. Now, we are doing regular. It's my neighbor's rooster. I've named him Frank. I don't know what his name is, but we have done regular fertilizing with worm tea on the rest of the garden, and so other stuff has definitely picked up in the last couple weeks since it's been getting those regular fertilizers. But this is the difference that compost makes. So these beds are just full and pretty insane. The other thing that's going on here is a lot of these plants were volunteers. So there were seeds in the compost. So it was seeds from, you know, plants that I was trying to start inside that didn't come up. All the stuff that we did start or it failed, we put that in there. All of our kitchen scraps, all of the cleanup from the previous garden, all of it went into the compost. And so there were a lot of sunflower seeds, apparently. I do remember putting some sunflowers in there. I saved some seeds and then I just put the rest in there. And boy, were there a lot. So we have so many amazing sunflowers in here. That's also how we ended up with so many tomatillos. And it's honestly been kind of a blessing because other things didn't do very well this year. We still managed to have a lot of really healthy plants, especially in these 2 beds. And then we've also had a lot of plants that I was able to move other places. So it all worked out really well. So these sunflowers are now as tall as me. I'm 5'5", 5'6", and you can see they are very, very happy. In the bottom canopy here, because I didn't know these sunflowers were going to be here, I did plant some dragon tongue bush beans that we started inside. And you can see that, let me try and grab these. I actually need to harvest these because they're, I think, a little too big at this point, but they're pretty cool. I love the purple stripes on these. Also underneath here in this jungle, you can see there's a volunteer tomatillo. There's a volunteer tomato right there. So there's lots of stuff down here. It's pretty cool. Over here on this trellis, I have some noodle beans. So this is probably like 3 rounds of starting noodle beans inside. And now I have enough where the trellis will be pretty full. So that's going to be good. And then back here, I have some Love Lives Bleeding amaranth that, I mean, this was a lot smaller in the last garden tour, and it really shot up too, I think, because of that worm tea we've been putting on everything. These are Kentucky Wonder pole beans, and they are going all the way up now. I mean, some of these are starting to go to the middle of the trellis. It's really beautiful and filled in. And then back here in this kind of like dead zone, I put some flowers, so there's some sunflowers and stuff back here. But there was also a volunteer tomatillo that I decided to leave. And then we have these beautiful little sunflowers. I think this is the sunspot variety. But I love these. I think they're absolutely amazing. These are great cut flowers too, because they go really well in any size arrangement. And then over here, we have some sugar pie pumpkins and a butternut squash. They're starting to come up the trellis. There were 2 sugar pies over here, and I meant to move one and forgot, and so now they're both too big to move. So they're going to be growing up this trellis together, and so far it's okay. I'm trying to grow them straight up so that they have as much room as possible. And then this one is kind of getting a trellis to itself. Here's more of that Love Lies Bleeding amaranth with some cosmos peeking through at the bottom there. And then we have a yellow zucchini or a yellow squash, and we're starting to get fruit on there. That's going to be our first squash of the year. So excited for that guy. It'll probably be done in like a day or 2. And then underneath here, we have another dahlia from last year. This one I believe was yellow. Over here we have 2 kaboka squash plants. It's the first time we've grown these. You can see the fruit is starting to come in on this, which is really awesome. And then we have, where's the big one? There's the biggest one we have. So it's a pretty good size already. And what I like to do with these kind of squash plants is I like to kind of zigzag them up the trellis as they grow, just so that they fill in the trellis more and you get a really beautiful look on your trellis when it's done. This is kind of a hodgepodge of things on this trellis. The funny thing about this is I actually spent a ton of time thinking about this specific side of this specific trellis because it's the first one that you see from our house as you enter the garden. And so I spent a ton of time thinking and hemming and hawing about what I wanted to put here because it was like such an important decision to me. And then I put stuff here, none of it came up, volunteers came up, I ended up moving random things over here. And so none of it is how I spent way too much time planning. And I love that about gardening. It kind of laughs in the face of all of my plans and gives me something better. So over here on this trellis, I have like some noodle beans that volunteered from actually last year because I had noodle beans growing on this trellis. There's this random, I don't know what this is. I think it might be some sort of cucumber of some sort. So it might be an Armenian cucumber, or it might be a gherkin or a telegraph. Those were the cucumber varieties we grew last year. So we'll see what it is. We got some volunteer sunflowers over here. We got this massive sunflower. This one is, I want to say 10 feet tall. It's way up there. And over here we have, this is a zucchini that I put in a couple weeks ago. We got a few more volunteers, sunflowers. Looks like there's another tomatillo over there. There's more of this Love Lies Bleeding amaranth. Like, man, this stuff really did shoot up since the last tour. Oh, nice. There's some that's hanging. So this is what it's supposed to look like. And I just thought that was like so beautiful, and I was so excited to put those in arrangements to hang down. Then over here, we have a zinnia. I did put this here, and this is a volunteer. I just left it. It's some sort of vining squash or something like that. And then I also have a honey nut that volunteered over here, and you can see where I would have planted stuff, nothing came up. So I'm kind of doing a survival of the fittest here to see which one of these guys makes it to the trellis first. I think it's going to be that one. And so I'm just going to let them do their thing. And then once it gets close enough, it will be able to go up this trellis and it won't be competing with that zucchini that's right there anymore. And then there's, you know, like a tomato right there that I didn't put there. And there's a little sunflower. I think I did put that one there. But yeah, it's all growing together. And then there's this. This is the most perfect sunflower. My goodness. I got a really beautiful photo of it the other day that I'll put on the screen. But I have loved this and been so sad that it's not facing the house. But now we have some other ones that opened this morning, so I'm excited about that. Here's the other side of the sunflower. These are just breathtaking. I love sunflowers. And then down here I have my little sunspot sunflowers, and they're so cute. Not sure what that is, but I'm letting it live. Yeah, and then the rest of this bed is just filling in really nicely. This is a burgundy amaranth, and let me see if I can get the top for you. This is taller than me. I really like growing these two for cut flowers because they will have these side shoots that are smaller, and they're actually like perfect for arrangements once they start to get going. And you can see there that they still have the little flower tufts and stuff. So it's pretty great. Here's my marigold that I started that is doing the best. So very pleased with that, excited for when it starts to flower. And then we just have more gigantic sunflowers in here. And then we have some, this is Thai basil down here, more peppers, and more beautiful amaranth. One of the main reasons why I garden is that feeling I get when I get to share it. And that is, you know, having people come over and showing them, giving somebody the very first blueberry of the season. I just get so excited about that. And also doing these tours with you and getting to share it this way. So thank you so much for joining me. I am so glad you're here. And I'm excited that we get another chance to grow together. Until next time, take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.